Alright guys, here we go again. Welcome back to Schola Progenium. Today we're going to be talking about Infiltration! So this is a really weird change to Infiltration. Because Infiltration and Recon historically were very action-intensive TAC ops, and you can definitely tell that there's been a lot of effort in removing actions from TAC ops. As you can see, we still have one TAC op that has actions built into it. But what does this mean? Well, it means that factions that are running Infiltration that had stuff where they could perform free mission actions, just off the top of my head, Genestealer Cult comes to mind. Commandos come to mind with their comms boy. Suddenly, those abilities and those stratagems become significantly less useful. Not really a big deal, but it does kind of suck. So before we jump into that, once again, we'll talk about how to choose TAC ops. I've mentioned this in my previous videos. I'm going to mention it one more time. So how you select TAC ops has changed now. Before, you randomly determined TAC ops with a 6-card deck built from your archetype plus faction TAC op cards. Now, there's no randomness. You just select 3 cards from your chosen archetype. So let's say you're Seek and Destroy and Infiltration. You pick Infiltration. You then take all of the Infiltration cards, combine that with your faction cards. So typically you'll have 9 cards, and then you choose 3 from there. Of those 3, only 1 can be a faction TAC op, and then the others have to be your chosen archetype. So this is a huge blow to factions that had really good TAC ops, which I think most bespoke teams in the game were at least taking 1, but most of the time they were taking 2 to 3 of their faction TAC ops, which is a bummer. I really like the faction TAC ops. They're typically fun to use, and they play to the team's strengths, but we don't have that anymore, so you're only selecting 1. So let's dive into these and take a look. So first one, we have Stock Target. Reveal this TAC op in the target reveal step, the first turning, or sorry, let's start over. I don't know why I'm fumbling over these words today. You can reveal this TAC op in the target reveal step of any turning point. Once you do so, at the end of each target reveal step, select 1 enemy operative to be stalked for that turning point. At the end of any turning point, if a friendly operative with a conceal order is within 3 inches but not within engagement range of the enemy operative you selected to be stalked for that turning point, you score 1 point. If you do that huge paragraph of explanation in another turn, you score another. I hate this TAC op. I think it sucks. I think it's really hard to score, and I think there's just way too many conditions with this TAC op to be worth it, and it forces you to keep targets alive, which is generally not what you want to do in Kill Team. You want to kill stuff. It's Kill Team, right? This is not, stock on Facebook team. I don't like this TAC op. Move on. Implant has not changed. Implant is really good. If you're running Infiltration, you're probably taking Implant. It's awesome. Next one, Infiltrate. It's late. I'm sorry. Seize Defenses. You could choose this TAC op in the target reveal step of any turning point. At the end of any turning point, if you control an opponent's barricade, you score 1 victory point. If you achieve the first condition at the end of any subsequent turning points, you score 1. Friendly operatives control a barricade if the total APL of friendly operatives is within 1 of it is greater than the enemy operatives. So this is situationally really, really, really good. You're going to have to play some mind games with your opponent. because whether or not you score 2 points or 0 is completely based off of your opponent placing barricades. So you're going to have to do some like real big mind game level moves. In Into the Dark, I think this is a really good tack op to take. In open play, I think slightly less so, but it's still really good to take. However, I think there's some massive counterplay to this tack op. If I'm playing against a team that can select Infiltration, I'm probably just going to go, okay, I'll just throw my my barricades in the back of my zone. It's just completely out of the way. And then my opponent's not going to be scoring points on these. So we'll come back to this. This is a really good tack op, but also really bad. Gather Surveillance. Reveal this tack op in the target reveal step of any turning point. Once you do so, at the end of each target reveal step, select one friendly operative to gather surveillance for that turning point. At the end of any turning point, if the friendly operative you selected to gather surveillance for that turning point has a conceal order, is wholly within your opponent's territory and more than 3 inches from any operatives, you score 1 point. If you do it again, score another. This is so good. So going back to what I was talking about with territories, right? So this is just board halves, right? You just got to get a guy in conceal on some side of your opponent's board. This is laughably easy. This is probably the best tack op in the Infiltration deck. So this is good. Honestly, if you're taking Infiltration, you're always picking this. Okay, moving on. Subversive Control. You can reveal this tack op in the target reveal step of the 3rd or 4th turning points, late game, right? At the end of the 3rd turning point, if friendly operatives control an objective marker in your opponent's territory and not on the center line, you score a point. If you do it again, the 1st turning point, you score another point. So this is... You have to be an aggressive Infiltration team. So what immediately comes to mind is, I think Harlequins and Commandos can both take it. This is melee Infiltration teams that are just going to be rushing up and trying to do this. And I think both of those teams can pretty consistently do it. So I think if you're a melee Infiltration team, this is something you might want to consider. It's situationally good. Next, install device. Reveal this tack op when a friendly operative performs the install device mission action. At the end of any turning point, if your device token has been in the kill zone for one whole turning point, or for the whole of that turning point, you score 1 point. If you do it again, score another. Okay, so install device. So an operative can perform this action while it controls an objective marker in your opponent's territory or on the center line. Place your device token on that marker, then remove it if an enemy operative controls that objective marker. An operative cannot perform this action if your device token is on the kill zone. So this is situationally good in Into the Dark missions. I don't think you take this tack op in open play, especially because there's a couple other Infiltration ones like Gather Surveillance and Implant, and potentially Seize Defenses and then Subversive Control. So these 4, because this one and this one, these should be like guarantee, honestly. At least Gather Surveillance. I don't think you take this. But let's look at the maps for this, right? So you could do I don't even know how you would do the map for this. Is it like this, or would it be like this? We just don't know. Like, I don't know how that interacts with it. I actually don't know how that interacts with Into the Dark. Because where is the center line on this map? I don't know. Is it this way? That's really hard. If it's this way, that would mean surely it has to be this way, right? I mean, fuck, I don't have my book near me. I don't think this has the missions in it, right? No, they don't have the missions in here. Oh, wait. Here we go. Oh, but of course Into the Dark wasn't designed with the TAC ops that just came out. Why would it be? Right? Of course not. I don't know how this works. I don't know if you could use this in Into the Dark. Because you don't have territory here. So rip. Yeah, this just doesn't work. I mean, obviously it works on this mission because you have a very clear territory thing. I think it would work on this mission. Again, works here fine. I think that goes like that. But I mean, I'm just inferring here. Yeah, so until Into the Dark gets an FAQ, I don't think this TAC op works. And in fact, any TAC op that talks about territory doesn't work in Into the Dark, but that's because Games Workshop completely forgot that Into the Dark's a thing, and they just wanted people to buy the terrain sets. Totally not salty about that. Like, there's just been no support for Into the Dark at all, and it's really frustrating because I actually really enjoy Into the Dark, but I'm not going to turn this video into a rant. This TAC op sucks. I don't like it. I think it's... Why does it suck? So let's talk about this. Because you might be like, oh, but it's so easy. Just plant it down and just hold it. Well, it's like, it's not that simple, right? So you have to plant this, right? And let's assume that... Actually, I'm not going to assume. We'll give you two scenarios, okay? So we have our first scenario where you throw this TAC op down and you happen to be in range of a central objective, right? If you look at the maps here, there's not too many objectives that fall under this category because it has to be either in your opponent's territory in the central line. So which ones can you realistically hit on turn 1? On turn 1, realistically, you're going to be hitting these central objectives. You're just not going to be able to touch these on turn 1, nor are you going to be even remotely capable of holding them. So they're just not even worth considering, right? So that means you have to hold central lines or central line objectives on turn 1 if you want to plant this turn 1. Okay. So scenario 1, you move forward and you try to plant. You're playing a mission where you can get these central objectives, right? There's not many, but there are some on some maps, right? So you plant this. You then have to hold that on turning point 2 and turning point 3. Keep in mind, your opponent does not need to score or to perform any mission actions to destroy the device. They simply have to hold the objective. Yeah, it simply says remove it if an enemy operative controls the objective marker. So they don't even have to hold it for the turn. They just simply have to move enough APL onto that objective to immediately take control of it, and then the device is destroyed. And you're fucked. Because it takes 2 turns to set up this TAC op. I think this is just way too easy to stop once you plant the device. The other scenario is you don't rush in and try to put it on a line, and you try to get it on turn 2 and try to get it in your opponent's backfield. But again, like, your opponent just has to move onto the objective and turn this off. So I think this TAC op sucks, and you should never consider it. Same with stock target. I think both these are terrible. So let's look at these 4. So again, assuming that you're making a, you're assuming you're taking a faction TAC op, because most teams have really good faction TAC ops. Gather surveillance. I think if you're taking infiltration, you always take this no matter what. This is something you always take. This is really good. Like commandos, if you're taking the Grot, you just, congratulations, Grot's getting this instead of Interloper. It's really good. Seize defenses. On paper, this is an easy 2 points. However, if I'm your opponent and I see that you're capable of running infiltration, I'm just gonna not put my barricades like really forward deployed, and I'll still try to make use of them, but I'm not gonna use them far forward to make it easy. So I think this is actually not a good TAC op to take. Not because the TAC op itself is bad, but because it's just so easy for your opponent to just say, I don't want you scoring this. I know you're going to take it, and I don't want you scoring this. If you're playing against somebody who's like not as good as you, I think this is an easy 2 points. So, goodbye. So this leaves you with implant or subversive control for your infiltration TAC op. I think the default is probably infiltrate or implant, because if you're running an implant, Jesus Christ, man, I can't speak today. If you're running an infiltration team, you're typically pretty solid in melee, right? I mean, even Wormblade is like not terrible, because you can take the Colt Dagger. I think it's called. I think it's a Colt Dagger, and that gives you 4 attacks, which is really good. Because, like, yeah, your guardsman's not killing anything in melee with 4, 2, 3 attacks, but you should land enough hits that you should be able to do an implant attack before your guy dies. And then if you're commandos or if you're Harlequins or one of the other infiltration melee teams, then it's laughably easily scoring implant. So this is just solid. Subversive control, I think, is a good alternative. However, you need to play an aggressive melee infiltration team. So I don't think subversive control is good for Genestealer Cult, for example, just because you don't have a lot of aggressive melee characters in Genestealer Cult. You typically just have the your leader and the Locust. So this is really only good if you have like a ton of really good melee guys like commandos or Harlequins. So these are your TAC ops you're taking if you're playing infiltration. I wouldn't consider the other ones. So I hope that helped. Final video is going to be, of course, talking about my favorite archetype, Recon. Most of the teams I play are Recon. So I hope you watch the next episode. I hope you learned about infiltration. If you disagree with me, feel free to talk about it in the comments. My opinion's not law, but I think it is. Anyways, guys, see you next time.